everybody. Welcome to Powerful Impact. This is SP. We have Morgan and Nev in the building, and our special guest is DJ Wiz. Yay!
What's up, everybody? How you doing? What's up, SP?
I'm good. I'm so excited. Okay, this was my wish list when Nev first started. When we first started talking about the podcast. He just kept naming all of these people, and then he said DJ Wiz, and I was like, DJ Wiz. Okay, I want him.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I've heard you so many times from Nev, so it's finally glad to actually see you in person.
I'm so excited. I can't even lie. Um,
And she said she feels tingly, allegedly.
Neville dropping dimes and whatnot.
yeah, since forever, and that's it is what it is. So
It's all good. It's mutual love. It's all good. I appreciate
This made me feel good.
it. It's all good.
you don't know how to act. So for the people who don't know, tell I wanted to do this big old huge introduction, but if they don't know who you are, then they need to read a book or go watch a movie or something.
Hey, there's a lot of people that don't know me. There's a lot. You'd be surprised. If it depends when you were born, what era you know. So I don't take it for granted when people know me. And they give me the salute, I give the love back. But I'm here to help people learn, and
Already.
if they need to learn.
So let everybody know kind of where you from and how that impacted you and how you do your music, the way you DJ, how you work.
Okay. Well, I'll just first introduce myself, DJ Wiz, DJ from the group Kid and Play, House Party Kid and Play, Too Hype Kid and Play, Cartoon Kid and Play. Some people don't even know about the cartoon. It depends how old you are. Yeah, so
Class act, kid and play.
all of that.
Yeah, how you know? And if you don't know who Kid and Play is, then
Google.
I'm going to have you Google. If you don't know who DJ Wiz is, I was going to have them Google because
Yeah.
that should just be in your hip hop notebook by now.
Yeah.
If you ever listened to an album and read the liner notes, if you ever did anything, you should know who he is.
Yes. Yeah, and if you don't like you said, just Google DJ Wiz Kid and Play. You
Yeah.
should see me, or a younger form of me, this form of me, because I still go by. People still, take pictures of me, and here I am.
So let everybody know where you from.
Born and raised in East Elmhurst, Queens, New York City. Um, Hearst, which is one of the best kept secrets in hip hop history uh, until we came out of there, along with our producer, Herbie Lovebug. We're all from East Elmhurst, Queens, um, along with a crew of other hip hop legends. Kwame, the boy genius, is also from our neighborhood. Eric B from Eric B and Rakim is from our neighborhood. We're all friends. We all grew up together. Cool G Rap and DJ Polo are from our neighborhood. We're all from East Elmhurst, Queens. So yeah, it's a beautiful class. And another person that lived in East Elmhurst, Queens for a short while I was a teenager was C Divine, the mastermind from the world's famous Supreme team. Who
Mm.
made Hey DJ and all of that stuff. Like there's just a lot of history from our neighborhood. Period.
So of all the people you named, the one I And I love, don't get me wrong, I love all of them. All of them.
Hmm.
But shout out to Kwame. Goddamn.
The boy genius, that's my man, Kwame. Y'all should check out Kwame. Kwame does everything. Like we're both geeks, nerds. You know, you see this Black Panther shirt on my, like me and
Hmm.
Kwame talk about comics, sci-fi. Kwame's a action figurehead. He's a monster figure. Like he loves Godzilla and all of that stuff. We talk about all that stuff. We're just big nerds and we love it. You know, we're the cool nerds.
I remember some of the best times just listening to Kid and Play and Kwame, and um, I have a permanent scar on my knee from trying to jump over my own leg.
Yeah, even like when I tried it, I might have tried it on a mattress or in the pool. You know, someplace you ain't gonna get hurt. You know, you can't really go there unless you know you're gonna get
Well,
that.
you know, when you young, you think you invincible. You think you can do it. They did it. Probably, I'm the one who dislocated her show trying to do the chair thing from Pleasure Principle with that.
Oh, yeah. And if you saw the movie House Party, you know you saw Play trying to do it in the movie. He was doing his little dance scene, and he bust his butt while he was vacuuming, doing the over the leg. So yeah, that's how most of us would do it if we never did it before.
Wait,
So,
can we talk about just a couple legendary people from Queens real quick, or Elmhurst in particular? Before
Yeah.
even that, who lived in the, now it's the greenhouse, but allegedly before it became a greenhouse, who was the legendary civil rights leader that lived in East Elmhurst?
Yeah, we had Malcolm X moved to East Elmhurst. His house was about 3 blocks from where I grew up, three
mhm,
blocks away. Yeah, that's a legendary house. Like a lot of people, they actually named that street Malcolm X Way over there on 97th Street in East Elmhurst, right off 23rd Avenue. Um, yeah, he's one. Uh, Louis Armstrong lived right in East Elmhurst as well, right off Northern Boulevard. Uh, Willie Mays lived over there. Uh, Harry Belafonte lived on 97th Street as well. Yeah,
I
there's
did
just
not know that.
there's a
Salute.
lot of royalty.
Dale. Me say Dale.
Yep, a lot of legendary icons who had an effect on the culture. Definitely.
so growing up in your neighborhood with all of those influences around you, how prominent a part did they play in just the overall flow of the neighborhood?
Well, the legends I just mentioned, Belafonte.
Mhm.
Like I was a child and might not even been born when they was doing their thing. Uh, Especially like Louis Armstrong. Like he has a museum. His house is actually a museum now in the neighborhood. If you ever come to New York City, you got to go there. It's pretty amazing. I went there this year for the first time just to check it
Wow.
out. Yeah, it's an amazing. Um, it's just an amazing place to visit. It's totally restored. Like you can't touch anything, and it is just an amazing house. Like they
Mhm.
left everything as it was, and it was pretty. It was a big house considering the
Wow.
neighborhood, and for him being a black man back then, it was a major accomplishment, major to even have that house. Period.
Skies are blue.
You are. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, I mean aside from Louis Armstrong and Malcolm X, all of that was before my time, you know. But there were a lot of other influences that I grew up around in the neighborhood, like specifically the mobile DJs. There was a few mobile DJs that influenced me to want to become a DJ. One of my best friends, Ron Lawrence. I got to mention Ron Lawrence as well. Um, Ron Lawrence is one of my best friends. I grew up with him when I moved to the neighborhood in 1976. And Ron Lawrence is a hip hop legend as well. He was originally in this group called Two Kings in a Cipher, him and Derek Angeletti, who later became hitmen under Puffy's Bad Boys producers. He was one of the
AKA D Dot.
D Dot, Derek D Dot Angeletti and Ron Amin Ra Lawrence. They produced two of the biggest hip hop records of all time. Ron produced Hypnotized for Biggie, and D Dot Angeletti produced the Benjamins.
Mm-hmm.
So they're
So yeah.
icons, you know what I mean? But
AKA the Mad Rapper.
yes, and he's the Mad.
Tell him why you mad. Tell him why you mad, son.
So yeah, I mean, another one from the neighborhood, another legend that grew up in East Elmhurst. You know, Ron Lawrence, and Ron Lawrence's brother, his older brother, was a mobile and club DJ called Dance Master. So between Ron's brother and one of my DJ partners, DJ Vern, who was in a mobile DJ group called King Charles, those were my influences to want to actually even get into DJing, with the ultimate influencer from the Bronx, Grandmaster Flash.
Mm.
So all of that is what made me want to become DJ Wiz. And before I was called DJ Wiz, when I started DJing and had my little DJ crew with my crew, you know, we were all so young. We had those big grandioso names like Grandmaster Flash. I was the Grand Wizard M.E., which is basically my initials, Mark Eastmond. You know, just had the M and the E. Grand Wizard. Like, you had to have one of those names back then.
Mm-hmm.
You just weren't cool.
Yeah.
This big long name, you know, Grandmaster D from Houdini. You're like, you had to have some sort of powerful thing, you know,
Yeah.
sound like you were big and just not to be messed with, so to speak.
So being uh as young as y'all were, um, I know for me, if things didn't work out with Rakim, you was on deck. So how was that for you being so young, knowing that people were just tossing, just out there, being like a sex symbol, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I know
don't
you
see it. Be
probably
careful with the words.
didn't yourself, but I'm just telling you.
Allegedly.
I don't know nothing about that. You see, I don't know that world. You know, uh, like Kid and Play, they were very much out in the front. You know, they're on the cover of the albums, of the singles. And I was more the background guy. Doesn't mean I didn't get any attention, because not everybody was looking at them. Some people was like, "Hey, who's that guy in the back?" You know, it's all good. You know, it's still amazing to me that that even happened, or may
Mhm.
still happen. You know, I'm like, wow.
So I'm looking at all your crates and
Mhm,
behind you.
mhm.
I remember that. I remember having a Chevy Chevette. It was lemon yellow with kiwi brown doors.
Wow.
And the door wouldn't close, so I had to lock it with a screen door lock. And the back window and the hatch was gone. It had plastic wrap and Velcro
Oh,
around it. And I remember how my cousins crates around to his different spots because I was the only one with a car.
yeah. Listen, you did what you had to do back then. You know, it may not made much about style. It was about functionality.
Hmm.
You didn't care. I hear you. People used to tape up their windows. Window got broke, they just taped the window up with some plastic. You know, just keep
Yeah.
on going. So don't. I understand it.
So how was it trying to get all of that because it was so much equipment?
Well, you see, back in the days when if you were down with a mobile DJ crew,
Mm-hmm.
you had to have a van or two vans for all of the records in the back, and for your speakers, and for the turn to everything, the amplifiers. You had to just come with everything, and that's how you did it. You didn't you weren't alone as
Mm-hmm.
a DJ. You had a support system. You had to have your crew that would help you set up and carry the records and all of that. Yeah, I mean, no DJ was alone back then. It was always a crew. Even if there was one name out front as a DJ, that DJ had his crew with him to help him do what he does.
So you mean to tell me I could have got crew credit and I'm just packing shit for free?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's how it is. I mean, the DJ, especially back in the days, the DJ was the most important. They were always out front.
Mm-hmm.
It was always out front. That's why in the old crews and the old groups, they would say the DJ's name first: Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five MCs,
Mm-hmm.
Grand Wizard Theodore and the Fantastic Romantic Five, Charlie Chase, Tony Tone, and the Cold Crush Four MCs, Dr. Rock and the Force MCs. Like, it was always that way.
Mm-hmm.
Things changed later. You know,
Yeah.
way later. Jam Master J, Run DMC. It was always the DJ out front. Later on, that it just got switched. I don't even know exactly when it happened. And now DJs are like much lower on the totem pole. It's all about the rapper. The art has changed. You know.
Have you have you incorporated the new technology in what you do, or are you still a vinyl DJ?
Oh no, no, no. I mean, vinyl's just for the house. It's not really a good functioning model to carry all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too much work. Back in the days, we would have the portable record crates. We call them flight cases that would, each one would hold about 100 records, just like
Mm-hmm.
these record milk crates. But they're heavy. They're like 50 pounds or more each. So if you were traveling out of state and you had to get on a plane and you got to carry that, which I did for a long period of time, I wasn't doing it by myself. I needed help with that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Today, we can't do that. And it's for a few reasons. The technology changed, thank God. And also, 9/11 changed everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
9/11 changed everything as far as traveling with excessive baggage. It's like over. That. So because of 9/11, a lot of people had to basically travel with tour buses. If you weren't already doing it, a lot of people had to do it then. Yeah. So, but the laptop is the latest and
Mm-hmm.
most widely used way to DJ. Before this, it was CDs. CDs came right after vinyl and turntables. And I was skeptical and hesitant to do that. I'm like, I don't know about these CDs, but again, functionality. It became about
Mm-hmm.
functionality. So I had to buy CD turntables, which you don't have as much control, but it did the job. Nothing feels like vinyl. Um,
Yeah.
they now have DJ controllers that mimic the actual vinyl feeling. They have controllers that actually spin like turntables, and those are the best right now. That's the best simulation to actual vinyl.
I was
Back
going to ask how that works now.
Yeah, that in conjunction with the DJ program in your laptop,
Mm-hmm.
and as many music files as you have is how much music you have.
How does it affect the sound in any way? Like, I mean, like I know the turntables are, other than having the actual record there. I mean, does it have that much of a different
Vinyl is
sound?
always the best. Vinyl is always going to sound the best, but when it comes to MP3 files or WAV files or whatever files you use for the sound, you just have to make sure you have the highest quality because you can convert to different bit rates, which affects the quality. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people who have iTunes convert to the lowest rate so they can get more songs, but you do hear the difference if you lower the bit rate quality. So,
How do you think like how it is now? Like, I mean, some people can do shows without a DJ. Like they're doing, not having that person in the background. I mean, how important do you think DJs are still to hip hop in that sense of needing?
well, that's what I was saying. Things changed, and now the DJ is less important because the culture has changed, the sound has changed, and at some point, rappers kind of just went to focusing on themselves instead of the DJ and the rapper. I mean, you can look at some of the most popular, successful groups. I'll use, aside from Run DMC and Jam Master Jay, I'll use DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
Mhm.
That interaction between the DJ and the MC, it just doesn't exist anymore. But that's the artist's fault. If the artist goes back to the foundation and roots, he will always include the DJ. Think about Gangstar. That's all they were. It was the DJ and the rapper. One of the most successful groups of all time. You know, Somewhere after the '90s, the whole that whole union just went to the solo, to the rapper. The main attraction became the rapper, and they stopped interacting with the DJ. Not saying it doesn't exist, but it's rare. It's very, very rare.
Yeah, it became more like theatrics than the like I've noticed people are relying more on the theatrics instead of the actual performance.
Yeah, and when you say theatrics, you can say technology because after a certain point in the 2000s, uh, became that era with the that T Pain effect. People started using that voice,
Yeah.
Auto
that
tune.
that that
Auto
auto
tune.
tune and every other type of effect you can call it because it's not even just auto tune. I don't even know what it's called now, but you get rappers you can't really hear their actual voice.
Hmm.
You hear this tone, and they play their lyrics in keys. It's just a different form of music now. I'm not saying that it's not good, but it's just different. This era is not just the raw MC voice and the DJ anymore. It's just about a beat and the rapper. That's it. And when I say beat, I just mean the track, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
track is, because it's not necessarily a beat, a raw hip hop beat like it was back in the days. It's just whatever trap you're rapping to, and whatever the MC rapper is representing how he wants to be sounded with the technology.
Yeah, I'll be the one to say it. Most of it is not good.
Well,
It,
what?
well, the only reason it bothers me is because if you're rapping and you sound good without it,
Mhm.
then okay, I'm okay with that.
Right.
But if you rap and you sound trash unless you use it, then I feel like I'm getting gypped because I feel like then I could do that.
Right,
Yeah.
because it's the difference between crutch and an enhancement. So it's either you're either using it as a crutch or you're just using it to enhance what you already have.
Yeah, so that's what bothers me about it.
Right. Right. I mean, it's there's a lot of ways to look at it because the younger generation, some of them were raised on this sound. That's the only hip hop they know. So they're just doing what they grew up on, just like we were doing what we grew up on. So I understand it. And at some point, this is going to change into something else as well. We don't know what it's going to change into. I'm very curious to see where it goes from here. But to your point, you think about the rappers that don't really use the effects and they rhyme with their regular voice. Some of these are the most successful rappers. Jay-Z still doesn't use that sound.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the most successful rapper right now. Two of them. Eminem is one, and Drake. Drake doesn't use that stuff. You can actually hear clearly what Drake is saying. You know, he's selling the most records and getting the most awards. There's something to it. Jack Harlow, same thing. Like you can actually hear what these guys are saying. So, if anything, people need to take heed to that example. We want to hear what you're saying. We want to hear what you're saying. I want to know exactly what they're saying. Back in the days when we couldn't hear what somebody said, it was because they were just talking too fast.
Mm-hmm.
It still didn't have the effect. We would have to run it back and say, "What did he say?" And say, "Oh man, that was slick." But it was never because of the technology. So I'm not knocking it because again, this is what the younger generation was raised on.
You
And
know, and
some of it
and
sounds,
speaking of
some of it.
right, and speaking of younger generations, so we talk about like how DJs are sort of have been at one point they're the front, then they got kind of pushed in the back, and now they're sort of um, non-existent for some people. For the younger generations who haven't had that, how would you describe what a DJ does exactly?
Well, the younger generation does know what a DJ is, but they don't know what skilled DJs are. There's a difference. And, I've had this discussion with many people. There's a difference between somebody that just throws on records like a jukebox,
Mhm.
shuffle, who just plays a record. You have to know how to make things blend on time and keep uh, an energy and keep a mood. You create the mood as the DJ. You create that bounce or that super excitement. It's a flow, and you have to know how to keep rhythm and a beat. What keys are, what chords are, how things flow sonically.
Mm-hmm.
That's what DJs are supposed to do, and you're supposed to be able to read the room and see where the crowd is and what you should be playing. So there's a lot of elements that need to actually be taught if you're not exposed to it. If you're exposed to a good DJ, then you know what a good DJ is. When you hear a DJ that's not good, you know, you'll know the difference. Absolutely,
Immediately.
pretty much, pretty
You
much.
do it immediately.
Yeah,
Like, who is this?
yeah. It's not about always yelling on the mic. You know,
Mm-mm.
um, real DJs back in the days never did that. The game kind of changed, and the most popular DJ to change that game would be Kid Capri. Like he really changed the whole game. People
Mm-hmm.
started imitating him later. Um, there were DJs who did it prior to him, but most people will not know that. Like some of these guys were my idols. DJ Hollywood was probably the first DJ to be talking on the mic and DJing at the same time. Him and Lovebug Starsky. Those guys are icons who changed the game for a Kid Capri to even do what he does.
Mm-hmm.
They were before him. So it's less common, but it's those guys that were the prototype to all of these other DJs who really started talking on the mic a lot. There's an art to it, though. You know, when you watch Kid Capri or Starsky or any of these guys, it's a flow. Like they'll shut the music down and say something real slick on beat and go into another song, and it's just an energy, and you
Mm-hmm.
keep that energy going.
What I used to love the moment when they stopped rapping and they just let the DJ go.
Yeah,
I thought those were some of the illest moments
yeah,
of a whole concert.
right.
Because the skill it takes, and to watch their hands moving, and
Mhm.
to watch them flawlessly spin
Right.
records. I
Yeah.
think that was some of my favorite times during the performance.
Hmm.
Um,
Right. That's why Flash was who he was. That's why one of the best to do it, Jam Master Jay, and
mhm,
Jam Master Jay and DJ Jazzy Jeff, like these guys set the tone for stuff like that. Grandmaster D, very show, like you put on the show and you excite the crowd. Absolutely.
DJ Scratch.
DJ Scratch, my brother, absolutely. So all of these guys, they're turntablists and they excite the crowd. I mean, there's so
mhm,
many DJs that are still turntablists and put on a show and get
mhm.
paid lots of money just to go out there and rock the crowd. Scratch is still doing that, to this day. Scratch goes on tour by himself, and it's really sad that somebody that's a dope DJ like Scratch would be probably more revered overseas, and not just DJs. As far as the real classic hip hop culture, I mentioned Scratch because he tours. Not a lot of DJs get to tour the country as a DJ. Kid Capri is the other one. There's Jazzy Jeff. These guys are household names.
Mhm.
And now, one of the more current ones, D Nice. There's a difference though in the different
Quarantine
types of
DJ.
DJs. There's a difference in these type of DJs. Um, but overseas, Japan, England, they respect our cultures, our classic hip hop culture, so much more than over here in the U.S. Where you go over there and you may, sell out a stadium or something like that. But over
Mhm.
here, they're not checking for the classic generation unless it's a really packed show with a whole bunch of artists, which it shouldn't have to be that way. One artist should be enough.
Well, for me, the DJs were the heroes of this pandemic because I don't know what I would have done without Grandmaster Caz and Jazzy Jeff and everybody doing the
Hmm.
shows.
Right.
During this pandemic, it was so
Hmm.
refreshing and it was so nice just to see the skill levels was still there, and to see, I my daughter watched with me. She
Oh yeah.
learned and she was like, "Oh, this is so dope. I didn't know people could do that." I was like, "Well, what did you think that was on those records you love, but you didn't?"
Hmm.
She thought they were just recordings, and I was like, "No, these people actually did those sounds on
Hmm.
those records."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned Grandmaster Caz. It's so funny that when I was growing up and I would listen to the Cold Crush Brothers, Charlie Chase, Tony Tone, Grandmaster Caz, and
Mm,
these guys, they had so much influence over everybody that was coming up. They were just very unique how they
Mm-hmm.
did their routines and put on a show. Um, Anybody here that's watching this podcast, they mention that group in the movie Brown Sugar. Like they at the beginning of the movie, everybody talks about when they fell in love with hip hop, this and that. All of the rappers at the beginning of that movie mentioned that group, how much
Mm-hmm.
and if an impact they made on them. And these guys are my friends now. I call Kaz on the phone. Like it's that when I got to that level, that's when I feel like I made it. You know what I'm saying? Like this guy, you're talking about one of the guys who wrote one of the most popular lyrics in rap history for Big Bang Hank in Rapper's Delight.
Mm-hmm.
Uncredited. Uncredited. It didn't come out till later that he was the one writing the rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
But he had so much influence outside of that, and people giving him his flowers after the fact, and I'm glad to see it. I'm happy he's getting his.
And the fact that he's still doing it on such a high level
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
today. I watched some of his Instagram lives and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's still right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, man. He's so loved and cherished by his peers. You know, somebody like, who's another brother of mine, Big Daddy Kane, or
Mm-hmm.
Clay, or Kid. Like we look up to Kaz still. You
Yeah,
know, we still hold him up here. You know, we just have to because he's that dude. Like the whole group, we looked up to all of them.
because left-handed. He was left-handed's mentor, and
Mm.
getting to actually talk to him and hear his philosophy on just being a DJ, you sound a lot like him.
Yeah, it's the DJ is nobody will say it, but we're still the most important element of hip hop because a good DJ will create the atmosphere in
Mm-hmm.
any venue. A good DJ, um, no matter what type of party or event it is, a good DJ with a crowd is going to set it off.
So, what kind of advice would you have for people that are coming up so they could reach that sort of that level? Um,
I would say just study and learn music. And when I say music, learn all of the different genres of music. Um, you will gravitate probably more to one or two, but you should learn old music, current music, and the different genres, and the old and new versions of those genres as well. You should know pop music. You should know rock music. You should know even country music. You should know it all because you know what? You never know when you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have that crowd. If you're really doing your thing and going around the world and having all of these different demographics of people to hear you. I'm not saying that it's for everybody, but you should have some knowledge of who the artists are in each of those genres. Like how would Little Nas X exist if he didn't know some country? You know what I mean? Or
right, right.
like you have to know these things and who he's collabing with. And this is how Run DMC got to do a collaboration with Aerosmith. This is rock and rap, hip hop. But because of the knowledge that we hip hoppers, us DJs and us B boys back in the day, we used to cut that record up, walk this way, and the rapper used to do his thing, but it was strictly the beat. But we
Mhm.
knew it was a rock record, a rock artist that this funky beat came from. So you got to learn all of these genres of music and just dig and learn what's hot, who was popular. You know, pop. I mean, come on, everybody know who Michael Jackson is. Everybody know who Prince is. Dig. You know, you're gonna find out about everybody else. David Bowie. You know, all of these mega stars. How people sampled them. They're like, oh, that's where they got that from. So I would say just listen and dig and find out as much as you can about all genres of music. You know, because the more information and knowledge that you have of the
Mhm.
music and the hits, the better the DJ you're going to be going forward.
I think one of the most enlightening moments for me when I heard a young producer use Moody Girl, and I picked it up. I was like, "Do you know this was a disco song?" He was like, "I did." The artist was like, "I didn't know that." He was like
See what I'm saying?
19. But
See what I'm saying? Yeah.
I was like, "This was a disco song sung by Frank Stallone of all people."
And that's the thing. You see, because you have that wisdom and experience for the original song, you can share that knowledge to somebody else younger and learning. It's the same thing. Like I, it's so funny. I saw somebody saying something to a performance. I forgot who was performing, but anyway, Missy Elliott performed recent, like I don't know, maybe the year before on some award show, and today's generation had no idea who she was, like no idea, and it was something that was sampled or redone, and they didn't know where it came from, but they didn't know any of it, you know. And when Missy's not that far removed, you know. I mean, there's a lot. I have a lot of issues with that because I think these well, this is a slippery slope here because I was going to say radio stations. Radio stations have these names of what they represent and
Hmm.
artists that they play just in rotation. And back in the days, it wasn't like that. You know, back when we were growing up, they would go back and forth, old, new, old, new. You know, of course, you're going to play what's new, but you would go back whenever. You know, the DJs had more control to do what they wanted to do way, way, way back when I was a kid. You know, but now it's all about corporate money and what stays in rotation, pretty much. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I wish and then I can't. You got to kind of it's kind of our fault too, because I've never seen how often how so much children are in charge of what's playing on the radio. When we were growing up, we had to listen to whatever they were listening to, and that's how we learned a lot of stuff
mhm,
because we didn't have like options. We just
right,
listened to, if our parents was listening to something, that's what we had to listen to.
right, right. And the other thing was certain stations back in the days, certain DJs would say, "Call up, tell us what you want to hear."
Mm,
And you know, that's back when we had dial phones. We didn't have no cell phones and all of that stuff.
yeah.
People would call in if you could get through because you know they only got but so many people working at the hotline, the radio line.
Mhm.
You know, but people would call in and say what they want to hear. That's the only you had a request line. You know, that's how they had that DJ, please pick up your phone up on the request line. You could actually call up and request a song back in the days. But because of technology now, the consumers and the artists have kind of like taken their own power on what they're going to listen to. You know, the radio stations are like, they're fighting to
Mm-hmm.
have the audience now. The kids, social media, new artists, everything's intimate. People are becoming stars on social media. I mean, I think one of the biggest examples from earlier 2000 hip hop would be Soldier Boy. Everybody, Soldier Boy changed the game. You know what I mean? From MySpace, millions of followers, his own deal. Everybody took that model and just started copying it. Now we have artists that you may never hear on the radio that are stars online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I was listening to Conway. The machine kind of went on a rant about Funk Master Flex and uh, how they weren't playing their music, and I was thinking to myself, well, who's listening to the radio to learn about real
Right.
MCs? Nobody's listening to the radio to
Right.
hear lyricism.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And the thing is, it's hard because the group Griselda, Conway, all these guys, Benny the Butcher, they're 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 different from most of the music that's out there. They're different. You can hear them. You can actually hear what they're saying, and they still got that rawness, that raw element of hip hop, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say who's listening, and I was shocked about the whole thing that he said about Funk Flex, and he mentioned Sus One. I don't know what Sus One
Yeah.
did, but the bottom line is there are some people that still listen to what he called the old DJs. Like Funk Master Flex is a staple in New York City
K
for
Slay.
decades. For decades, you had rest in peace, DJ K Slay. You have Red Alert, Molly Mall. These guys are still around. They still have influence, and I think Red Alert said it the best. I'm playing what's dope. He's not into the politics. He's not into anybody, just playing it just to play it because everybody else. Red plays dope music. It doesn't matter who made it. It could be young, it could be old, whatever. I'm gonna play it because I think this is dope. That's how records actually got broke back in the days,
Mm.
like real records. You
Yeah.
like I felt this, and I'm gonna mix this because I feel it. You know, I'm not just gonna play it just because this is supposedly hot. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling that record, I ain't playing it. So this whole thing with lyrics and all that, it does matter. It still does matter. Look, Zelda's hot, Conway's hot, Benny. These guys are hot because they are lyricists. So I don't know where the beef actually came from, but I will say that the cream rises to the top. That's why those guys are hot. That's why they're making millions of dollars and selling hundreds and thousands of millions of units. Because
Mm-hmm.
it does matter. It does matter.
But they're hot because of the internet. They're
Yeah.
never
Oh,
going.
yeah.
They're never going to get commercial radio play.
Oh no, commercial. They're on. Go to Sirius. You might hear them. Go to
Yeah.
Sirius and go online to the mix shows that are underground.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you're gonna hear that. Scratch Vision will play it. But Scratch Vision is for hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think
People who really know your hip hop. You're going to the underground sources. Not commercial. Absolutely, because we know commercial is also about money too. And I think to your point, corporate America has high influence on what commercial radio plays, which could have been addressed in that whole beef with Conway and Flex. Like, could have been. Because I mean, I know Flex does play what he wants at times when he's in his mix. He'll do what he wants. But at the end of the day, corporate America is still running it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I think he kind of addressed it, but it was, you know, as most people, as we understand, you know,
Mm-hmm.
after a certain age, for some reason, even Funk Master Flex have his ear towards a younger
Mm-hmm.
artist and demographic. So yeah, you just not gonna get that if that's the kind of music you trying to if that's what you're trying to do, then you're gonna have to add some auto tune, you're gonna have to repeat some stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I
You're
think
gonna have to
I think though Conway, I think though Conway to defend him a little bit. I think Conway's issue is, you know how like everybody complains about the New York sound being gone, or other people sounding like other regions. He's saying if you're one of the major tastemakers and gatekeepers still, even though things have kind of changed because of streaming, I think he's saying, why aren't you supporting the
Right.
grassroots artists in your backyard? And he is, I guess Flex is, but then they have now the drill movement, right, in the Bronx, the drill rappers in Brooklyn. You have this drill movement going on the I guess underground slash commercial scene in New York. And I think that's the issue with them. They're saying we've been bubbling and doing our thing. You've had us on our show a little bit, but we don't feel that real push and love behind us that you do for others. And I think that's the real gripe with him. And then his clapback was interesting when he said, you have Eminem, you have Jay Z, Rock Nation, Shady Records. You have all this behind you. How come you can't get bigger than where you are? Like you said, creme de la creme, the cream rises to the top, right? I think that Flex was clapping back too, saying that you guys should be able to go higher than you are. You shouldn't need me. I shouldn't even be relevant. So I hear both sides of it. I think that's the issue. How important do you think that DJs are in breaking records, making hits, being tastemakers in certain regions these days? Which I think is what Conway's addressing.
Well, I mean, he is addressing it, but it's too broad of a statement to say get rid of all you old dudes. Like, that's just too broad, because there are old dudes that support and like what he does. You know, I like those guys. You know, I like Conway, I like Griselda, I like their sound. I would play them if I was on the radio. You know, I'm not Funk Flex. I don't have the ears of New York City on Hot 97 to and you know what? I haven't listened to every Funk Flex show. I don't know if he hasn't played them. Like, I don't know what his whole background is with them, other than, you know, seeing the freestyle that they did in the studio. But I will say that the DJs on the radio do have some influence, especially on a major station like Hot
Mhm.
97 or Power 105, whatever region of the country you're in. At LA, Power 106, Philly, Power 99. Like, there's major stations that do have an influence, because look, not everybody has Sirius. Not everybody's tapped in online. Not everybody's tapped in underground. So for whatever level that these guys are at right now that they achieved without the radio station, all it takes is one of these DJs that are on the big station, whatever station, to play it in a prime situation, and now they could have thousands more followers and fans to buy them and support them. So the DJs on the commercial radio still do matter to a certain point, you know, and I'm just talking about commercially. Commercial dollars matter. That's where the corporate gets in. Like I said, this is why it's so important to the corporate companies and the sponsors how they're represented. You know.
Yeah. And if you replace all the older DJs with younger DJs, you ain't never getting no play because young people not listening to you, fella. You know, most young people, you know, it takes some coaxing to get them to listen the first time, even though you know they may fall in line. But most younger DJs ain't doing that. What made you decide to pursue a professional career as a DJ? What was that moment?
It wasn't intentional. It was not intentional. I will say this: from when I became a DJ as a child, you know, I'm talking about stealing my parents' home turntable, plastic turntable, and just destroying it to learn how to scratch and do what I do. I would have never guessed that however many years later, I'd be DJing on tour with Kid and Play and going around the country and being on TV and all of that stuff. I would have never imagined that. It was just happenstance to do something I loved. Before Kid and Play, I did have high hopes of one day making a record with a rapper. I even considered rapping. I was not a good rapper. I was not. I was not a good break dancer. I was not. So I never considered doing those. You know, out of the real hip hop elements, I wasn't into graffiti. I wasn't into any of that stuff. But music, keeping a beat, and actually feeling it with the vinyl, that was in me. So I was sticking with that, and I did want to learn how to produce. So I was considering going to school for it. I did a lot of reading when MIDI was first introduced with
Mm-hmm.
computers. Like I was all in that. I was in it. I brought my little Commodore 64 computer. I brought the music software. I brought a little Casio keyboard. I wanted to learn. You know, I wanted to get into music production. So, and I was still DJing. Like I never stopped DJing. I used to play instruments. I used to play guitar. You know, when I was younger, I dabbled on the piano a little bit. I never learned how to play the piano professionally with notes and reading notes and everything, but the guitar I did. You know, we learned that in school. And I was always into bass and chords. And so I had the music knowledge in me. And I was raised with so much music around me. All my older sisters and my parents, they had extensive vinyl collections that I was just receiving and inputting all of this music. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just a natural progression to be a DJ, but for me to actually make it a career was just happenstance when Herbie decided that he wanted me to be Kid and Play's DJ. So it was Herbie that made that happen.
I was gonna say, how did you meet up with Herbie, and then go into like how Kid and Play formed?
Okay, well, again, we're all from East Elmhurst, Queens. Um, we all knew each other since before teenagers. We weren't. I wasn't really close to those guys when we were younger because they're like a few years older than me. You know, kid's 2 years older than me, plays 4 years older than me. I think Herbie's 2 years older than me. And you know, when you're a kid, 1 year makes
Yeah.
so I didn't really hang with those guys, but we're all from the same neighborhood and we were all into hip hop at the same time. So we all knew each other. We all know like East Elmhurst is not big. It's a very small radius to East Elmhurst. So Herbie, Kid, Play, Eric B, we all knew each
Hmm.
other. Kwame, Rock, like not Rakim, but Cool G Rap and Polo. We all knew each other. We were all aware of what we were each doing as far as hip hop is concerned.
Was
So
Dana Dane around this time or
Dana
no?
Dane is in Brooklyn. Dana Dane wasn't around until after we were after Herbie was established with Salt and Pepper. Then Dana was around. You know, Like, because we were all going to the clubs, once hip hop and records were being made, you all ran into each other, whether it was the Latin Quarter, whatever those clubs were back in the days. We all knew each other from back then. So, but I'm talking before that. I'm talking way back, like how I knew Herbie. Like, again, we all went to the same parks, the same schools in our small neighborhood. We all knew each other. St. Gabe's. Herbie went to St. Gabe's Catholic school. I think Kwame went to St. Gabe's. I went to public school. Um, yeah, but we all hung out in 127 Park. 127 Park was the park where everybody congregated, hung out. That's where the park jams were, and played basketball. That's where the girls were. So we all knew each other. You know, um, we were all in groups prior to becoming famous. I'm talking about late 70s and the early 80s. We were all in individual groups in the same neighborhood. Play and Herbie and Ron Lawrence were in a group, Super Lovers. Actually, Ron Lawrence was in a group with me before that. Ron Lawrence, Kid, and two other rappers were in a group called the Turnout Brothers, in which I was the DJ. This is how we met C. Divine from the Supreme Team and got exposure all over the city. This is back 81, 82. Okay? But Play, Herbie, and two other rappers, and a DJ named Quicksilver, who was very instrumental in some of Herbie's productions. They were a group called the Super Lovers. So the Turnout Brothers and the Super Lovers were like two friendly rival crews in the early 80s. And we just stayed tight the whole way up until 87, 88 when Kid and Play came out.
And then because I know you've mentioned it before, how you used to go by this big, long, grandiose name. When did you switch, and how did you decide on just that, DJ Wiz?
One of my friends actually came. My friend, his name is Shakim. We used to call him Ruff back in the days. His last name is Ruff. So they just called me Wiz. They shortened it. He shortened it to Wiz because I was one of those smart kids that was like an honor student, nerdy, but I was cool in the crew. I had my little nerd habits. I was a sci-fi guy. I was in the comics. I was in the music. I was in the electronics. But I was a smart kid in school, and I used to play pinball, which is a lost art as well.
Yeah,
I was a pinball wizard.
Yeah.
So me doing all of those things, from pinball to video games to being an honor student and all of that, he just shortened it. He said, "You're a whiz," and it just stuck from that point.
What So all the places that y'all toured,
Mm-hmm.
what was one of the best memories you have?
I have a few. Early Kid and Play, and this is before the album came out. This is before Too Hype came out. I'll never forget the time when we played this club called the Red Parrot, which was very popular in New York City. It was a big deal if you got to play at the Red Parrot.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the city would go to the Red Parrot. So when we played there, that was a big deal. When we played at the Apollo for the first time, that
Mm-hmm.
when we played at Madison Square Garden for the first time, that was a big deal. There are some cities where we got a lot of love. Philly was definitely one of the big cities for Kid and Play. We were loved in Philly. We would do Philly so much. Like, they never got tired of us. DC, Washington, D.C. was another big one. and this is after the Kid and Play album came out because they had that Rolling with Kid and Play. We could do no wrong in DC. We could do
Mm.
no wrong. Oh man, DC loved us.
At Go Go.
Yeah. So,
Anything overseas?
well, we didn't do a lot overseas. Ironically, we didn't do a lot. We did like the Caribbean, we
Mhm.
did Japan, and we did like the whole country of England. England was dope, and we did England before our album came out. It was a promotional tour with the record label called Cool Tempo, which was basically licensing Kid and Play from Select Records. We were distributed from Cool Tempo over there. I think Gangstar was also on that label as well. So we
Mhm.
did a tour over there off of a couple of singles. We had 3 singles: Last Night, Do This My Way, and Getting Funky, and we toured like the whole country of England before our album came out. And we had some really memorable shows over there.
What is the one place um, you haven't been that you really want to go?
Um, well, I'm curious about a lot of areas of Europe and South America where I know hip hop is big now.
Hmm.
Uh, Even Canada. I think we've only done Toronto like once. Like we there's a lot of places Kid and Play have not been, uh, and I think that's due to the fact that when Kid and Play, came out, they blew up kind of quickly. We, our album came out in '88. '89 we toured the country and we did those spot dates in the Caribbean, and we did Japan. But right after that, they started doing House Party.
Hmm.
So it's like the film thing happened, more tours in the U.S. happened. We never got a real opportunity to go overseas. Um, More movies happened. It was like movie after movie after movie. It was just a blessing. I mean, the guys did 4 movies in a row, and then like right after that, it was over. The guy things changed, things happened, but that's really a contributing factor why we never got to really tour overseas the way
Hmm.
we would have.
So how did that come about?
The movie situation. I know the House Party story. The Hudlin brothers, Warrington and Reggie Hudlin, 2 famous brothers that had a major impact on the culture because they did all of these big hits. House Party was their first, but these
Hmm.
guys went on to do like Boomerang and Harlem Nights and all of these big blockbuster movies. Um, they are the ones who chose Kid and Play. But the story is that supposedly they wanted DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince first.
Hmm.
And I forget the reason why. I don't know if they turned it down or whatever. I can't remember the exact reason why they didn't do it, but it fell in the Kid and Play's hands, and the rest is history.
What about the cartoon? Like you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, the cartoon. I mean, that came as a result of House Party success and Two Hype success. Uh,
Hmm.
Kid and Play were like a household name. Like these are the guys.
That's the first hip hop cartoon, right? I think the first.
Yes, the first rap cartoon. These are the guys that made hip hop and rap palatable. Next, along with people like Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, but Kid and Play had a more comedic presence together,
Hmm.
body out there, and a different look. When you see these guys, you remember these guys. Kid had the big high top fade, they had a smaller fade, but you remember the dancing, you remember the fun, you remember that energy. So these guys made it safe for everybody to love hip hop, pretty much. Um, they weren't the hardcore hip hop, but
Mhm.
the music was hard to dance. Like it was dance hip hop. It wasn't poppy, but it was dance hip hop, and then it was kind of like a little bit of both. So I think that fact, along with the movies, is how we got the opportunity to do a cartoon and have a Marvel comic book at the same time. They all just went one after the other.
Because I'm from the South, so you know, you put on anything we can dance to, we gonna
Right.
gravitate to it in a heartbeat. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were huge here. I mean, just
Well,
y'all were.
are you in Houston? Where are you?
I'm in Dallas now, but I'm originally from San Antonio.
Okay, yeah, I remember doing. Yeah, we had some great shows in San Antonio. I remember that. Yeah,
You
the
did.
Riverwalk. Yeah, yeah, we had some great shows in San Antonio. Houston was good as well. Houston, like we did a show with the Ghetto Boys. Man, it was incredible, incredible.
What year do you think that is, and what record are they on? What record are
I
you
think
guys on?
it was probably around 90.
They had Mind Playing Tricks on Me out yet? You think?
Yeah.
Woo, that must have been crazy. Who opened up for who?
Um. Well, if it was there, they probably got on after us because it was their city. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. You would give that respect. Um. I mean, we toured with Public Enemy, so they were the headliners.
NWA, all of
I mean,
that tour. What tour was that? Oh,
that
okay.
was a different tour. You
What
see?
tour was that with Tupac,
No,
Digital
but well,
Underground?
yeah, that was the Public Enemy tour. That was Public Enemy. So the Public Enemy tour was Digital Underground, Heavy D, Queen Latifah. Um, the Ghetto Boys were on some of the shows. Big Daddy Kane was on some of those shows, not the whole time. Yeah, it was incredible.
Is this It Takes a Nation album or Fear of a Black Planet for that tour? Do you
Well,
remember?
we toured with them for more than 1 year.
Oh, okay. So probably both albums then.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. The last tour we did with them was Fear of a Black Planet. The last one.
Oh, that's craziness. Back then, tours were so well, hip hop tours were very broad. It wasn't just one type of. They had y'all, NWA, Public, and like they used to mix and match all these different types of groups. Why do
Yeah,
you think that was? Now it's not like that. You're not gonna catch different types of artists on the same bill. I don't think so. Anyway, not that broad of
It,
a range.
it,
Why do you think it was like that?
it was so
well,
much.
mhm.
It was just so much fun. It was so much fun. It was so much fun to hear uh, uh, a kid and play, and then hear some. You need that. You need those juxtapositions because yes, I love Public Enemy, but I also needed some kid and play to actually dance to and
And balance
just
it
make
out.
you happy. You needed Kwame, you needed Domino, you needed all of these people that just made hip hop fun and exciting. It was so exciting to see the dance in it was so exciting to see you guys perform. Um
There was another reason
because
too.
you also
There was another reason. Yeah, there was I guess this is probably the best example. When we won the NWA tour, it was like NWA Too Short, which might be considered hardcore. So you needed a kid and play to kind of balance out the crowds, and also in different cities, depending on what cities, the venues to even take the tour to accept the show. Because if it was just NWA and Too Short, they might not have got approved to be in some buildings. So they needed a kid and play. They needed JJ Fad. They needed Kwame.
mhm,
Otherwise, we're not taking you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
and we
Like, you
needed
get
somebody to tell
insurance.
our parents we was going to see. We couldn't
yeah,
say
Kid and Play,
we were
right?
going to see.
Exactly. You need
We going to see Kid Play.
and Good Boy Sad and Kwame, yeah. You know, and what was another group used to tour with us? That might have been the Public Enemy tour.
Exclaim.
Yeah, X Clan was part of the. You know, they did a couple shows, Detroit and a few other cities. But there was some other like regional rappers, depending what part of the country we were in, that would open up.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really hardcore or anything like that. Whoever was hot in the region, like they would open up in their city, and that would bring the crowd too. The local crowds. People want to see their hometown people in that big arena. So
Could you tell
Did
us?
you?
Oh, sorry, sorry.
Oh,
Who's
go
that?
ahead now.
I was gonna ask just one. I don't know if you have any good stories, but do you have any memories of Tupac you could share with us?
oh yeah, God, I remember this one time, uh, Pac had he had to roll on this dude that stole Chuck D's jacket. Guy actually stole Chuck D's PE jacket, and Tupac saw this dude.
Wow.
And Tupac rolled on that dude. Tupac tried to kill that dude. Like Tupac was like, "Yo, man!" Like, and he wasn't a thug. I want y'all to get the thug image out of your head. Tupac was not the thug that you saw after the fact, way after. He was not that. Tupac was cool. He was fun. He was happy. He was just very passionate about who his crew is. So his loyalty, like somebody stole one of his homies' things, he rolled on that dude like, "Yo, dude, you got to give that up." You know what I'm saying? So I mean, between that and one of the more famous, if you go on YouTube, there's a very famous clip with Tupac and Kid and Play and Kwame. If you just put that in the search, you'll find the clip. MTV filmed it, and somebody took the clip and put it on YouTube. But Tupac was with us. We used to play this game. Uh, it was called the Nut Game. Like people would just tap each other in the nuts. Like it was just crazy. You were crazy,
Pause.
yeah, and be like, oh, if you said something that did like you just like do it and see people double over. So we were playing the game, and then we all just decided to stop the game. This is the whole tour. Like we're all playing Digital Underground, Kwame, Kid and Play. Um, we're all just playing. The crew, the production crew. So we all just said we're going to stop it because there were some guys in Kwame's crew that were taking things too far. So we didn't tell them. We didn't tell certain people that the game was over. So they played the game and they did that. They hit somebody in the nuts. So we all went and cornered this guy. Tupac, Kid and Play, our bodyguards, our sound guys, and we kind of like spanked this guy. Like we went to their dressing room and we pulled down his pants and we all just beat his ass, literally, just slapped him, slapped him, slapped him, slapped him. I mean, we didn't kill him. It was just a fun moment. But Tupac is there. You see him laughing and having fun with us. We just had the most fun on tour. Just
SP looked confused.
go.
No, I'm laughing because I remember that game. We used to play it in the hallways. They just walk down the hallway and just hit somebody and
Yo, I'm telling you, it
yeah.
was a funny game that we passed that on to so many people. I mean, Naughty by Nature toured with us. Um, I remember there was a time at this national music convention, Jack the Rapper. We we would play it with whoever. I remember when Boys to Men just came out. I remember Play hit one of Boys to Men, and they was like, "Oh my god!" Like they didn't know what was going on. They were like, Those
One
were
with the deep voice.
no, I think it was actually Sean. It wasn't. It wasn't. Yeah, yeah. But I remember his face. I was like, "Damn, why'd you do that play?" But yo, that we made everybody have fun. We just did. You had to be down with us. You had to love us for who we are, or just don't mess with us. But luckily, most people were receptive to us. So yeah.
It's it's interesting. Just last thing on Tupac, when you talk about
Mhm.
loyalty and everything, and about it's interesting with what led up to. I guess we don't know the whole story, right? Well, I don't know the whole story, but what led up to that thing about the death row chain and him passing and all of that. That was, I guess, based on crew loyalty as well. That kind of led up to the events that put him in that scenario. So it's interesting that you say, forget the thug thing or whatever, but there was the loyalty thing. That loyalty thing seemed to still be something that he carried, I don't know, 4 or 5 years after you initially met him. And it carried over into his passing actually, which is
Yeah,
sad.
it was part of who. This is part of the character. I mean, when you have real character, you are true blue to whoever's in your crew. That's just what it is. It doesn't matter. It's not even about rappers. It's just about people. That's what loyalty is. I think even outside of the rap, outside of rap, that was just Pop. That was him. He was just one of those dudes, true blue.
And you were also around when Trouble T. Roy. Were you on
Yeah,
that tour
Heavy
when
D.
Trouble T. Roy passed away?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, we were on that show. It was a rough show, man. It was rough after that happened. I didn't see it when it happened. I was there when the ambulance came and they threw him in. They threw him in the ambulance, and I remember going to see him at the hospital. It was ugly, man. It was an ugly memory, and right after that, Heavy was off the tour. Like he didn't tour anymore after that. He was off the tour. Like yeah, it was just that was a hard one. I remember the next day after we knew that he passed. We knew that Trevor T. Roy passed. Everybody was doing the show. People were crying on stage. Latifah, Flavor, everybody. It was just hard. It was really hard. Nothing like that had ever happened. And
One of the first losses, yeah.
yeah,
One of the first, besides MC Trouble, I think was one before him.
yeah.
Maybe
But
MC Trouble.
Trouble wasn't on tour. You know what I'm saying? Like we were in the middle of a tour, and that happened. So
Yeah.
it was just devastation for Heavy, of course, because he couldn't do. He could not go on with the tour without T. Roy.
I think it was even hard on the fans because I remember my sister, she just lost it because he was her favorite, and she just completely lost it, and she wrote this long letter to Heavy D and
Mm,
condolences. I mean, it was the time when you actually wrote people because how else was they gonna get your letter? We don't
mm,
even know if they got the letter, but we just, it was just one of those moments in hip hop because it wasn't something that was usual. It's not like today when rappers just or people in the industry was just dying at such a young age. So
mm,
it was really heartbreaking for the whole community.
yeah.
And it was so much different back then. Can you talk about because a lot of old heads always talk about how much artists respected artists back then. And one of my things was, well, that's because you actually had to see people up face to face. So you couldn't just like talk shit and not ever run into them because y'all can send stuff through email.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Like towards the end of
Tim
hip,
Dog.
yeah, I have a Tim Dog story. Yeah, Tim Dog. This was at the same convention I mentioned earlier, Jack the Rapper. The year Tim Dog, Cypress Hills, they were all there. It was their first year, their first
Mhm.
album promo event. Um, But I remember being in an elevator with Tim Dog and MC8 from Compton's Most Wanted. And you know, Tim Dog talked about everybody from the West Coast. So MC8 saw him. And it's not like he rolled on him like, yo, I'm ready to fight, but he definitely approached him. And I got that on video somewhere. I got it on video. I just got to find the tape. But Tim Dog said, hey, man, it's just records, you know. I ain't got no beef, you know. And you know, you saw it. Like, you saw the conversation. Like, MC Light was like, okay, yeah. Like, there was no email.
Yeah.
You know, like, but that's how it was. You know,
Yeah.
people ain't play that. You gonna see somebody, you gonna see them. I mean, I've seen
Cube and them too, the Lynch Mob and Ice Cube and cats having fist fights and stuff, right? At the Jack the Rappers or the music convention.
No, I saw Ice Cube, the Lynch Mob, and them have a beef at, it might have been the New Music Seminar. I was in New York. I saw that. Like, they had some beef. And I remember King's son was there. A whole bunch of people was there, you know. But yeah, it was real, man. It
Yeah.
was back in the days. People, if you talk crap, you gonna see somebody. There's no internet gangsters and all of that. You know, that didn't exist back 30 years ago. It just didn't exist. You know, you can't talk and not see people. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So,
I
how
got
do
about
you?
I got about 15 minutes, y'all, and I gotta
Oh,
roll.
okay. Um. So, did you actually produce any of the Kid and Play music?
I produced a couple of the B cuts. On the first album, I basically produced my own self-titled song, "Damn That DJ," the Wizard and Me. I produced that song. Uh, I was instrumental in
Mm-hmm.
helping fine tune some of the songs on the first album. I was in the studio every day um, with Herbie and DJ Quicksilver, who was very instrumental in the Two Hype album. Herbie had a crew called the Invincibles. These are all producers that helped him get all of the songs on the album. I had more of a role in the second album, the Funhouse album. I have a couple of cuts on there. There's a cut called Stroking. There's a song called Why You Gelling Me. Me and one of my buddies,
Mm-hmm.
uh, grand composer Dre, did those songs. Um, I did another song as well. I can't even remember that. That's crazy. I can't remember what else I did on that album. I'm definitely on Too Hype. Not Too Hype. The Face the Nation album, which was probably our least successful album, but I got a couple cuts on there. There's a song called Back on Wax. Me and my friend Dre did. And there's another song that I did with Play, co-produced with Play, called Give It Here. Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
A little dabble in production, yes.
Can you touch on some of your current work in the community?
Oh, in the community, current work.
Yeah.
I'm teaching DJ classes online and soon to be back in present with people. You know, God willing, COVID doesn't get out of hand again with the Queens Public Library. Thanks to my brother, DJ Ralph McDaniels of Video Music Box, New York's first video show. Ralph McDaniels is the hip hop curator for the Queens Library, and he involves me with some of the programming that he does for the hip hop portion of his curation, and I'm glad to be a part of that to teach the history
Mm-hmm.
the real history, not from hearsay. I speak from experience about Queen's contributions to the culture.
So
So,
where do people um how do people get into that? Who wants to be?
I mean, it's free. All you got to do, like, since the library is public, we make an announcement online. We're going to have either a conversation about hip hop history, or we're going to have a live DJ lesson. That
Mhm.
conjunction, I'm also an educator for the Hip Hop Education Center, teaching hip hop history and DJing as well. It's all online right now, but again, once things clear up, we'll probably have other alternatives as far as how you can access lessons. Um, and the Hip Hop Education Center is partnered with the Universal Hip Hop Museum in the Bronx that's being built right now. So I'm glad to be a part of it. Um, the Hip Hop Museum just opened a couple weeks ago, and they're
Mhm.
the golden era. Um, a presentation of the golden era of hip hop. It's an
Mhm.
interactive experience. I can't even explain it. It's just
It's
incredible.
officially open now. I didn't know it was already
Oh,
yet. Okay, the
it's
Hip Hop Museum is open in the Bronx.
yeah, not the one that they're building.
Say they've had a location this
They've had,
right. They've had this whole time. They're just building a new one, like a new
yeah,
one.
they have, like, I almost call it like a storefront, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's not a store. It's a museum. Um,
Mhm.
it's one level, but they're actually building a multi-level, huge building.
Right. So they're just doing like exhibits right now, and eventually they'll be able to have more than one exhibit going when they
Yeah,
have the
yeah.
larger building going.
It's going to be an amazing facility. They got Microsoft's one of their partners. They're going to have interactive things going on. It's just an amazing building. It's a huge building.
Hmm.
Huge.
So this is just because Kid and Play y'all meant so much to me.
Mm-hmm.
After the music and the movies were done, what happened? Did they break? Did y'all break up, or did you just?
Yeah, we broke up. Play got saved by the Lord, and he didn't want to rap anymore. So
Mhm.
that was that. And plus, additionally, the sound changed, hip hop
Mhm.
changed. It started going in a more harder and flossy direction. That Kid and Play were not any of that.
Mhm.
One, the first foremost reason, but then again, Play got saved, he got married, and then he split up with his lady, so he wasn't trying to hear the business at all anymore. So that was pretty much the end of Kid and Play.
So, what was life like for you after Kid and Play?
It was rough. I DJ Wiz without Kid and Play. It's not like I was out front DJing and doing all of these DJ battles, or I wasn't a trick DJ. I was just a good sounding DJ. I knew how to make the energy, and I knew how to put records together. Um,
Mhm.
so without Kid and Play, um, I tried to do this production thing with a couple of groups, but that failed miserably because these young groups that I had, oh man,
Mhm.
I had a young group that basically had a deal and asked to be out of a deal of a major label,
Wow.
Polygram Records. Yeah, um, somebody brought them to my attention. I let Herbie check it out. Herbie was like, "Yo, I could get them guys a deal." He got us a deal, and it's basically one of them situations where somebody gets fed the good stuff too fast. These guys were from Virginia, Portsmouth, Virginia, and they had people fighting over them, like who was going to get them, because everybody wanted the next hot thing. So these guys basically asked to be out of their deal because they thought that the record company was taking too long to put their stuff out, which that wasn't the case. But because they had people fighting over them, they thought they could just go get another deal, but that wasn't the case. They
Mm-hmm.
was to the contract the label had presented, so they basically slit their own throat. This,
Mm.
the thing about it is the deal was mine, not theirs, so they slit my throat.
Wow.
Crazy, yeah. They didn't know what they were doing.
So the name of the show is Powerful Impact. So if who are the three most influential people in your life that provided a powerful impact for you, either personally or professionally?
Um, well, definitely Herbie Lovebug is one because again, he's the one that allowed me to DJ for Kid and Play, and I learned a lot from Herbie. I learned that I learned how to produce, really produce, watching Herbie.
Mm-hmm.
Herbie went to school for that. Herbie went to school to learn how to record, but there were a lot of other things I learned as far as making records, formatted records for radio. Like you had to have a formula back then on
Mm-hmm.
how songs were put together. 8 bars, 16 bars, chorus, then bring it back, same formula, chorus. There was a scientific formula that made hit records. I learned that watching Herbie and hearing the product and seeing how he did it. So he's definitely one. Um, I'd say my dad personally. Dad definitely. I all of my characteristics, my calm demeanor, and my outlook on just being nice to other people, helping people. But definitely my dad. So definitely my dad. And I have to give a shout out to Bishop T.D. Jakes, another one. You know, I've been following Bishop Jakes over 10 years now. He's had a profound interest impact on my life after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
That's but
Potter's house,
yeah,
Texas, Dallas.
that's it. So those are the top three, right? Off the top. I could say somebody like Grandmaster Caz as well, but as far as hip hop, there's just too many.
Mm-hmm.
Many people, man, that have impacted. Grandmaster Flash, of course, first and foremost, I would say Grandmaster Flash because every DJ wanted to be Flash back in the day. Flash was the epitome. Yeah. I
So,
gave you more than three, but you know,
so from the 15/16-year-old girl in me, I really appreciate you coming on.
it was a pleasure, SP. Listen,
Like a dream come true. I can't even lie.
listen, it's a pleasure. Me and Neville been talking for a long time about when this could happen. I'm glad I could finally do it and meet you and Morgan and chop it up with Neville as well. I'm sure we'll do it again in the future because I got some things that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get this DJ school, my own school, to happen. I want to, aside from the DJ school, I got another kind of school I don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I get that going, and I'll definitely be back to talk about that. I'm real big into science and helping the youth. I'm gonna find a way. I don't know how exactly. I've been discussing this with Ralph McDaniels and some other people, just about tapping into our younger generation and just kind of closing the gap so we can really know where they're at and just help them deal because technology is not really teaching the kids people skills and how to talk. People are texting, they're on video games, and there's not a lot of the face to face. You mentioned that earlier, SP. People, people emailing and texting, but there's not this. We don't have this. We got to teach that skill. We got to teach personality. We got to
Mhm.
teach life skills. We got to teach communication skills. We got to teach people how to understand what people's skills are. You know what I mean? A lot of people just don't have it because of technology,
Yes.
unfortunately.
So that's probably why I'm so focused on getting to a place where we can do the community gardens, because I find that me and my daughter have the most interesting conversations just pulling weeds out of the
Yeah,
garden because our hands are busy. So there's
yeah.
no phone.
No,
And
that's awesome. That's awesome. It's ironic you said that because the head librarian at the East Elmhurst Library wants to start a library course on gardening as well. Community. Yeah.
yeah, so that's one of our focuses. Once we get there, that's what we that's I think learning to grow your own
Yeah.
food is important.
It's super important. And I mean, I've had this conversation with a few people about uh, Koch brothers
Hmm.
trying to patent seeds. They try to put a patent on seeds. How are you going to put a patent on a seed?
Yeah,
So absolutely,
they're trying to buy all the water rights.
yeah,
So these are
insanity.
things people aren't paying attention to,
Yeah, you're
but
right.
they are essential to life. And so people
Mhm.
need to, kind of open their eyes and see
Right,
what's going on around them.
right, right. So you and your daughter doing that, and that's the type of stuff I want to connect with the kids as well. They gotta they're in the matrix on their phones, and they're nobody's paying attention to anything. So
Mhm.
hopefully we can make a difference.
Hopefully, that's well, we're gonna make a difference.
Yes,
There's no hope involved. We're gonna
I
do it.
like the sound of that.
Thank you so much for coming on, and thank everybody for watching.
My pleasure.
Um, Hit the button for the inspiration and the subscribe button for the motivation. We here. Don't forget to hit the notification, because when we have dope people like DJ Wiz, you'll be notified.
It was
Thank
a
you
pleasure. It was.
so much. We appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all. I'll be back.
All right, we'll be here.
Powerful impact. Boom.
Woo!
Peace, y'all. Thank you. Thanks, DJ.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.